You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Broadcasting from the Blanchardstown Centre, this is Phoenix FM.
This is 92.5 Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15.
Hey everybody, it's JB Jeremy Borash, and you are listening to Darrow O'Connor on the...
Welcome to the Wrestling Rewind, the only wrestling podcast by fans who don't hate wrestling.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Wrestling Rewind. My name is Darrow O'Connor. Thank you so much for joining us. Post WrestleMania week, post sale of WWE week, it's crazy. So we're taking a bit of a break from our timeline because we've reached the end of our arc actually. So before we do another one and announce it on the social media, we've kind of decided to do a little bit of a different show, to hop in the TARDIS and go to a random point in history. So to help me break that down and cover the waterfront of issues, it is the one, the only, the one and oh, you love him, you know him, Mr. Martin Hardy. How are things, Martin?
I'm exhausted. In fact, we're all exhausted here at the Wrestling Rewind the past week from the multitudinous laps of honor we've all had to do about the several things we've been right about for years.
It's amazing. It really is.
So,
I mean...
Dara hasn't stopped once the sale of WWE was announced. Dara was like, do you know a Pikachu can only say Pika Pika? Dara, for the past week, his language has been reduced to, I told you so.
I told you so. Well, I did. I mean, everyone said it was, you know, it's the second time in my career as I hate to use that word for this, but my career as a wrestling, and also I hate to use this term, journalist.
Well, once we get our first X-Pac Euro, I think it'll be,
well earned.
Okay to call it a career.
Can we have like a Darrow is right Euro? You know. And of course, guys, over on our Patreon as well, would be very much appreciated. The link trees are all there. So thewrestlingrewind.com is where all the links are. So yeah, man. I mean, what a crazy 7 days! It hasn't even been 7 days since WrestleMania. Like it feels like it's been years, but it hasn't even been a week.
It's wild, but like this has been the way it has with WWE for the past couple of years. You get large periods of nothing happening, and then 10 historical things will happen in, within the space of 3 days. You'll go from, everything's quiet, same old business, and then it'll be, oh my God, here's a whole new raft of allegations. And Vince McMahon just quit over Twitter, but he's back. Hold on, he's back. Like,
it's insane.
It's mental.
It feels like I'm talking about TNA here in the bad times, where you're not talking about the product, you're talking about everything but the product.
Well, I mean, it's fairly clear that his role in creative is back. So that there kind of, the gossip and the rumor and the, everything's going to hell in a handbasket, that's even seeping into the actual creative product now.
Oh yeah, because so we obviously, when we do go live, it's a Friday and we're taping this on a Friday. SmackDown, Triple H is going to give an announcement and we don't know what it is. I've heard two things. Either one, he's leaving WWE, which is a bit far-fetched, or he's going to be taking over SmackDown. We don't know which one it is.
It would be strange to announce that in a kind of a kayfabe. That sounds like more like a backroom appointment. But yeah, I'm with you. The speech he did on Raw was very strange. Come out and rah, we'll be here forever. But it was odd.
People are getting ready to leave.
It was just like, well, nobody said you won't be. Like, why?
Yeah,
you're doing this big defiant thing when nobody has said otherwise. So yeah, it seems like they're really. I mean, the impression I get is that they're putting Triple H out there as much as possible to give the impression that he is still in charge of creative,
Yeah.
despite what we've all heard about WrestleMania and about Raw, that Vince has been, more and more just inch by inch getting back into gorilla position.
And he probably has been. I mean, WrestleMania didn't feel like it was a Vince show. Raw did. For many reasons, really. I thought WrestleMania was quite good. And we've covered that in detail, myself and Dave. So before I go to your thoughts on that, Martin, when you heard the sale, I mean, we told the story last week, but you weren't there. So, or not last week, Monday. Sorry, Monday. So look, we covered this story. We said that when we were doing our show, or when we were doing our group chat, and the sale was announced. I said to you specifically, you didn't. The choice to go with Roman only makes sense if there's a sale, and then the sale was announced.
Yeah, I pretty much announced like during WrestleMania because they were bringing up breaking news to Triple H at the press conference afterwards.
It's crazy. So this is how fast this was moving, So I mean, look, man. Again, we don't know. It looks like this sale is confirmed. I have.
Oh yeah, it's 100. It's
well, it's
100%.
Not yet. There is an opt-out clause that if it's not done by the start of 2024, it can go back. So I mean, you have a year to kind of do it, but it does look like it's absolutely going to be done. I mean, and it's funny, the thing about it is there's no money involved. It's all stock. So it's all stock in the new company. There's no actual money.
Well, the big thing will be like from the point of view of like just people like me and you, fans or whatever. The big thing will be what happens in 2025. So this deal with Peacock they have is separate. Well, it's not separate. Obviously, they've absorbed the company, but it's the deal with Peacock stays until 2025. After that, that'll be interesting what happens next because Endeavor are big into the pay-per-view side of things. You know, that they have these big UFC pay-per-views for $70-$80, a show.
I'd never pay that for WWE. There's no way.
I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if they're going to keep up with the network. Well, because the network is really only active outside of the US. The network doesn't go in the US anymore.
I mean, it makes more sense for them to go back to the network or to and just do that because I mean
and maybe up the prescription price or do like the tiered thing. I don't know, but once this deal with Peacock runs out anyway, I would be very concerned not because I don't care, but for WWE fans, I'd say you're looking at a pretty expensive increase because you got to remember, like, see with the network or with Peacock's even cheaper than the network.
Yeah.
People have been like, you set up these subscriptions and you just kind of forget about them. So as far as people are concerned, they have been getting WWE for years for free. Yeah. And then at some stage in the near future, this company Endeavor is going to start asking them to put up real money to see it again, and
you wouldn't.
Interesting to see who.
Yeah, no, I all that will happen is a certain website will be frequented, and that's it. And I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
Don't watch wrestling.org.
So yeah, like if they want to go back to that, okay, that's a terrible business decision. But I mean, an improved network spread out to more eyeballs makes a lot more sense in many ways. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens and what goes forward. But before we go into Taboo Tuesday, which I'm so excited about, so I'm kind of breezing through this. Okay, so two more. Well, the biggest news of the week obviously was Roman Reigns is still head of the table. I was ecstatic.
Lord.
I was ecstatic. So I was so happy. I was so happy. And And I think it's wonderful. I mean, hopefully now he'll go back to being Stardust, and all will be right in the world.
It was hilarious because obviously Irish time, whenever this happened, it was like 4 a.m.
Oh man, yeah.
And I mean, the second that third hand went down for the pinfall, my phone just like I was me, Dara, and Dave were all texting each other at the exact same time. The second the third hand went down, like I just texted lol.
I did have a bit of the whole, oh, that's anticlimactic, and then I remembered who it was, and I was like, oh, I'm so happy, because I would have been sickened. I really would have been, because I hate him a lot. Like,
so here's the thing for me. I like wrestling fans really love the wrestling, and they do get emotionally invested in it. And I just completely emotionally detached from WWE in 2019 after the Hell in a Cell thing.
Oh yeah,
Isaac,
that's totally fair.
I'm not buying into this anymore. I'm not getting annoyed or raging whenever they make stupid booking decisions. I'm not caring about these characters anymore because they don't care.
Yeah.
And because I completely have emotionally detached from it, I'm the same as you. I thought this was hilarious. Just
like, I'll be honest with you, like, I don't know. I mean, he's just not a star. And it's funny that people are starting to say it now, because it's like because there's some people who are freaking out completely unhinged, and I'm just like, it's Cody Rhodes, like,
but it's
Cody Rhodes, it's like, come on.
But you know what, Dar? It's not even the fact that it's Cody Rhodes. He was somebody new, like way before wrestling, months and months ago. Me and you were talking about like, what do they do with Roman Reigns next? Because he has beaten everybody. They have nobody left to put forward that can be credible.
It's true. It's true. The Rock is the only one.
But why bring an established star like The Rock? Why put him over?
Because that's what they do.
It's
that's what they do.
I'm genuinely stunned by the fact that they've booked themselves into this corner. Like, and it was a good, like you say, it was a good WrestleMania. It genuinely was. Like, and
dude, I said to you beforehand, I'm not interested in any of this.
Yeah, and like any good pay-per-view, even if you're not interested in it, the right talent will draw you in on the night.
Yeah, and it did.
And look, I was enjoying it, and I have my issues with the pacing and the production of WWE shows and all that. But even setting all that aside, there was some good to great matches. There was actually very few. There was only a handful of stuff you'd say was bad.
Yeah.
But it was kind of the opposite of WrestleMania last year.
Yeah.
Night 2 of WrestleMania last year was pretty crappy pay-per-view with an amazing ending.
Yeah.
And everybody then thought WrestleMania was brilliant because everybody left happy. This was the exact opposite. They built this almost to a perfect crescendo, and then at the last second, they wet the bed.
I don't know. I think they made the right decision.
Do you know what it reminded me of?
Go on.
Was it Revolution 2021? Was that the exploding ring
deathmatch? Yeah.
They had this amazing show, and then Mox and Omega had this incredible match. Like, these two lads murdered each other for 30 minutes. They had this absolute bloodbath work of art of a match, and then down to the countdown: 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then the exploding ring farted.
Yeah,
and that is all anyone remembers from that show. That's all anyone wants to talk about when it comes to that show. And now you have this WrestleMania where the wrestlers put on a genuinely good show, and nobody cares. All it's about is this absolutely baffling decision they've made.
And again, I think it only makes sense because of the sale. And you want Roman to hold the belt for 1,000 days. And then after that, I mean, Does it even matter?
So,
I mean, does it even matter?
what's the thing with the 1,000 days? Like,
I don't know. I don't know. I think just to do it, it's kind of like the streak. You know, we've talked about it on this show. Like the streak wasn't a thing until they realized it was.
yeah,
It's like they walked into it. They're like, oh,
So
well,
come
we
here.
can use this. So
So come here, from
Go
your
on.
perspective, then, right?
Yeah.
You're the booker.
Yeah.
You've absolutely just destroyed this Cody Rhodes because there's nothing they can do now. Even if they give the belt to him at Backlash or at SummerSlam or whatever, it's not the same. The story reached its emotional peak at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And they flubbed it. So you're the booker. How do you get the belt off Reigns? Who do you give it to next?
well, first thing I'd be like, Cody, come here. You're Stardust now, and you know, I legitimately make him a contender for the Intercontinental Championship, and that's where he'd stay, or he'd leave. One or the other. I mean, either way, I'm happy enough with it.
Hell, I don't even know if I would because Walter has made that belt.
Yeah, that's what I mean, though. Like, it's anyway, but that's where he belongs. He belongs in that mid tier, you know, never to reach the top. But I think you actually kind of said the name I was going to go for there. Walter is somebody who's brought the IC belt to really kind of mean something, and they've built up Drew and Sheamus, right? So you've Drew, Sheamus, and Walter, just some names that you could put against Reigns in a very competitive series. And I think taking The Rock out, because I do think The Rock is going to win it, right? Genuinely. But if I was the booker, I'd have those three go against each other to try and race for that belt. And that way you have Reigns overcoming the three of them.
But that's
manages
the point.
Hold on, sorry. Not overcoming the three of them, but trying to overcome the three of them. And then he just can't. And Walter wins it. That's a more interesting story, because the whole story they're telling with Drew and Sheamus is that they're friends who would stab each other in the back for the IC belt. Walter, who's trying to dominate, and
Do you
what's
think-
more, you know,
Do you think they'd put the world title on Walter though?
they haven't got anybody else, but they could. That's what I mean. Like, that performance at WrestleMania shows to me that you can build a company
but
around
to be
it. Or even as transitional. What they need to do is here, to answer your question, right? They need a transitional champion here, right? But they can give someone the big rub. If they set it up in such a way where Reigns is beaten down by Sheamus, overcomes, beaten down by Drew just misses out, right? Imperium are cancelled out in some way. Imperium are the antidote to the Usos, right? And Walter's able to get in there. You have a heel champion with his own little crew who's like, look, I overcame him, but he only won because he had Imperium, right? That way you neutralize it. Roman walks away unscathed, basically, and then you can reset. They have to do something like that. I do think unless it's The Rock, which again is so silly, but that's what they'll have to do something where Reigns doesn't come out looking weak, and that's how you do it. You have it right there in Imperium.
Like, I absolutely love Walter, love Imperium. I mean, genuinely, at this stage, the only people I'd take from WWE to AEW are Walter and Asuka. But I don't think they see Walter as a world champion.
No, that's why I said transitional.
Just because of the not anything to do with in the ring. He's amazing in the ring, but like, you know, I don't really see Walter welcoming you to Monday Night Raw.
That's why he wouldn't. You know? That's why he wouldn't. What would happen is he would win it and immediately lose it, probably 2 or 3 weeks later.
To who though? Like to
anyone who you want. They reset. They reset it off Roman. Or what's more realistic? Because they're also talking about the draft. Walter wins it, right? It's off Reigns. The belt is split up into 2, and then you just reset. Because they're going to have to do that. They've booked themselves into a corner here where that belt has to be taken off them.
It's mad, isn't it?
They'll do it. Yeah.
Like, sometimes you have to stop and remind yourselves, like, whenever they have face these problems, sometimes you have to stop and remind yourself that this is all worked.
Yeah.
They did this to themselves deliberately.
It doesn't have to be this way. You could have planned it out. Yeah.
I actually can't get over it. Like initially, whenever they did the ending, it was all just lol, memes, all that crack. But now that I stop and think about it, like this is used to be a $9 billion, now it's a $21 billion company, and they just cannot help themselves. It's astounding.
To answer your question, if I was the booker, that's what I would do. I would get them in such a situation where Reigns walks away. He's beaten. His crew's completely beaten, but it's done in such a way that it was odds. It wasn't that Walter was the best. It was that he was the last. That's the story. And then Reigns can come back and challenge for that in a couple of months, gives him time off. It's what makes sense, but it doesn't. Do you want to do it? The Rock is going to show up. The Rock will win and be head of the table. That is what they're going to do. I'm telling you, that's what they're going to do.
I mean, they've done it with Goldberg let's say they go with The Rock. I suppose The Rock could do a 6-month run where he actually only has 3 matches,
Yeah.
Because the matches will be the big thing for him, because it's apparently it's almost impossible for him to get insurance to wrestle whenever he's filming.
Yeah, and he banjaxes himself every time he wrestles. And
he's always filming. Like he's always doing a movie.
But I mean, look, once they get the belt off Reigns, right, what they'll probably do is they'll split it up. Either way, because this one belt thing, it's killing them. Like, it really is. They have to split it up into 2. Or even, again, like the IC belt actually is kind of funny because it's doing what it's supposed to do. So get rid of the 2 belts and just have the one.
Proper
matches.
But big props to the lads like Walter and Drew and Sheamus, because like for 30 years we've had AC champions who keep saying, "Oh, I'm going to restore the belt to its glory," but they actually have.
They actually have, yeah, and that's why I think like there's your number 1 contenders. They're supposed to be. They're actually showing that they are. Didn't
it? It was. I mean, they kind of only dropped it in the Attitude Era, but prior to that, the Intercontinental title holder was the number 1 contender.
Yeah, usually, yeah. So I mean, look, but that's how I would book it if I was given the opportunity. But mark my words, the way things are going now, The Rock will come back, and he's the one that will be headed. Because look, the story writes itself. You think you're head of the table? No, I actually am. And then there you go.
And now
you know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. That's the thing. Search your feelings.
Now they're a $21 billion company. They can pay them to do that.
Yeah. And you just know what's going to happen. And then what they do after that, well, that's a different question. But search your feelings, folks. You know it to be true. You really do. Anyway, real quick before we go on to Taboo Tuesday, AEW. They're doing their all-out show in Wembley.
What was I doing at 4 a.m. on Thursday morning? I was booking flights and accommodation in London.
But you haven't got tickets yet.
And tickets aren't even out yet. AEW have announced that, I mean, this was multiple big announcements. So firstly, they're doing All In 2. So the return of the original AEW, even though it wasn't AEW at the time, but the original AEW pay-per-view, like that on its own is exciting. They're coming to London, so this is the first time, not only that they've been in Europe, but the first time that they've been out of North America. So that's exciting. And they're coming to the Wembley Stadium in 90,000 seat arena. Dara, can they fill it?
No.
No, we don't think so.
No.
I mean, look, people.
No. Okay, here's why I say it, right? There are 2 ways to look at it. But when I see something like this, my impact, that's the only reason why. It triggers it automatically, right? The reason why is, okay, everyone from Europe will probably go. Some Americans might come over, but, they could fill it. Cautiously optimistic. However, I have been in the impact zone, and I have been in arenas when TNA have tried to run arenas, and there's 200 people there. I've been in the Tree Arena when there was 200 people there, and everyone got upgraded to ringside seats. I have been in the Impact tapings when the arena again at TV tapings has been completely empty. So,
well, let me set your mind at ease even just a little bit. So,
okay.
I personally, I think they'll fill it.
I hope they fill it. I hope they fill it.
Oh, but yeah, well, like even just for the wrestling industry and actually for wrestling fans in Europe,
yeah,
if they fill it, it's
it,
good because it says, oh, we should do more shows this side of the pond.
Yeah.
But yeah, so AEW actually has a bigger television fan base in Europe than WWE does.
Yeah.
That's partly down to the fact that in Britain and I think the big Italy, they have a couple of TV deals, but there's most of the countries where they have TV deals, they're on the free to air channels.
Yeah, the accessibility of it is quite good in Europe.
Yeah. But also just the fact that it's the first one over this side of the pond. Anything new, like coming into a new market or anything like that, generally gets a big response. But the fact that it's a 90,000 seat arena, I think they're going to put on just like an all-time insane card. I think you're looking at Punk returning. I think you're looking at Sting's retirement match. You're looking at Omega and one of the top New Japan guys.
They really have to roll out the big guns here to make it. But look, as I said, I'm cautiously optimistic. I hope it sells out, or not even sells out. I don't think it'll sell out, but I do think it would. If everyone goes, and because it's not too far away, right? I mean, like if old people from Italy want to go, France, right? You're going.
Well, look at your big European wrestling countries. You've got France, Germany, and Italy.
Yeah,
like that's
look, the majority
of Ryanair flight.
Exactly, and a lot of Irish people will go as well. Yourself, myself will go.
The diehard US and Canadian fans
will probably go. Yeah,
make the trip. Yeah.
So look, it is a possible, absolutely, but I've sat in an arena with a WWE competitor, and there's just been seas of tarp.
Yeah.
So,
well, look, if nothing else, I can tell you that it won't be that, because apparently within 24 hours of pre-registration opening, they had 25,000.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty good.
Sign-ups.
Now it's still quite far from 90,000, but
yeah,
it's better than.
But you remember, it hasn't even been marketed. Like this has only been marketed so far
to the diehards,
to the people who have been watching AEW. This.
Yeah.
So it's a tall order.
It is.
But I think they'll surprise a lot of people, and I
hope so.
One of the people there.
Well, look, as I said, either way, you're going. I'll probably go, just to see it, because I think it's an event anyway.
Oh yeah, like that's like a lot of people will go just because
it's an event.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, I'd much rather go to that than go to Clash at the Castle. Which would have been very disappointing.
Well, I tell you what, Clash of the Castle is a good sort of example to give, because it didn't sell out. It nearly did, but the reason it didn't sell out was because of the pricing of tickets was just
crazy,
exorbitant,
crazy. So crazy. I have a friend that spent $1,000 on 2 tickets. Technically, she bought 4 tickets, but still spent over $1,000 on tickets.
So this is what I think it'll come down to. I think they can fill that arena if they keep pricing under control. Yeah.
No, the thing about it is, it's like, keep the tickets between like a SmackDown Raw taping is about £30.
Yeah,
£30 to £70, absolutely no problem.
If you're in Wembley Arena and you're way up in the nosebleeds looking down at a tiny ring, you shouldn't be paying £100 for that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's like the fun of the tapings with WWE is you pay €30 to sit in the nosebleeds because it's a bit of fun. The diehards are going to pay whatever they're going to pay for ringside tickets or something like that. But I mean, look, when tickets come out, we'll see. We'll get numbers. We'll cover it. There's a high you're definitely going. There's a high possibility I'll go.
If I have to cut the front door of the house off and float across the Irish Sea.
Well,
I am going to this show.
Well, either way, you'll have a man on location anyway. We'll get you an earpiece and everything, Martin.
Yeah, I'll be our man on the ground.
A man on the ground. But okay, we have about half an hour left, so let's get into the TARDIS and travel all the way back to October 19th, 2004. Taboo Tuesday, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, from the Bradley Center, with an attendance of 3,500 people. So,
in an 18,000 seat arena as well.
Yeah, so there wasn't a lot of people here. This did not have a great buy rate. Actually, it's considered one of the biggest flops in WWE history.
Yeah,
but I love this pay-per-view, and I don't love it because of the show. The show is pretty bad, but I think it's the most ahead of its time show that they've ever done. And for the life of me, Martin, I genuinely do not understand with the app, the WWE app, that they haven't done this again.
There is a really good idea here.
Yeah, and I mean,
just haven't executed it well yet. But genuinely, like, we'll take we'll extract the urine from the show as we go.
We will. We will. Yeah.
But genuinely, there is a really good idea in here if they can find a way of executing it better.
Yeah, I think this is probably the best one of these that they've done. It's interesting though, because I remember this show very clearly, because the internet really wasn't. So in Ireland, folks who are listening in the US might be different, but in Ireland, we had the internet, but it really wasn't a thing until 2004, 2005, 2006. That's when broadband started happening. So dial-up was still very much a thing now at this point. You had internet time. Remember internet time? And then everything became internet time. Yeah. So that was the world that this dropped in for me and probably everyone else who was watching in Ireland. So I don't think I voted in Taboo Tuesday because couldn't.
I still remember to this day we got the first computer we got in the house. If you were on the internet, you couldn't be on the phone.
Yeah. And
I still remember, like, I used to regularly hear me dad's voice. Like, he'd go out and you'd hear the phone be lifted, and then all you'd hear down the hall bellowing, "Are you on that fucking internet?"
And that was it. And I mean, you had to just, if you were on the internet, that was it. You couldn't do anything else. So, I mean, doing this pay-per-view, doing it on a Tuesday one was, I'm all for midweek pay-per-views. I think that's a super cool idea that they should do.
I looked this up because in the 90s they tried to do this as well. They had a show called This Tuesday in Texas. Apparently, the thinking behind a Tuesday show was that they would be able to lead directly out of Raw. So Raw would be able to end on a high note and be able to say, "Join us tomorrow." Like that.
It's like what they used to do with Heat.
Yeah, because I always thought it was bizarre. Like, why would you push a pay-per-view on a Tuesday? But I was listening to Grilling with JR earlier, and apparently that's why they were so keen on making Tuesday a thing.
And look, I think it just has a different vibe to it because it feels kind of fresh. It feels like you're like, okay, I'm watching something completely different here. This whole show is very much its own thing. The last WWE non-Sunday pay-per-view was In Your House 8, Beware of the Dog 2. weird pay-per-view names. But yeah, that
In
was
Your House 8, Beware of Dog 2.
2. Part 4. So this was touted as you control the fate of WWE, of Raw superstars, the World Championship, and the course of history. Now, this is during the so we will have to do some setup during this because there's just so much setup. One is it's Raw, so this was during the brand split, so no SmackDown guys, literally just Raw. This was at a time when WWE was two separate entities as such, for better or worse. And fun fact, they actually didn't know who was going to win, right? For some of it was work, some of it wasn't. The voting was legit from what I could find out. And
I was surprised. was trying to find somewhere. I was like, it couldn't possibly be a shoot. But
It
yeah, I
was.
was
Yeah.
saying everything I found said that the voting was absolutely legit.
And what's even more funny is Shelton Benjamin didn't know he was going to win. Jericho was told as he was going out, here, you're losing. So they worked the entire match in the ring.
I think that was like Shelton Benjamin's, he's a hell of an athlete and all that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But he doesn't really have it that much in the personality side.
Yeah.
But I think having him win the title was a really good idea because it gave the impression at the start of the show, man, maybe anything can happen.
Yeah, it was a great decision because, initially, so there was some really goofy stuff on the show. There really was, right, when we get into it. But when he won, the whole crowd was like, oh, whoa, okay. It like instantly made them hot, for the entire show. And the crowd was quite good. They didn't really lose anyone.
So me and Dar before the show started had a wee chat, and I have something I wanted to see if he got the same vibe as me. But
so because this isn't on the radio, folks, we're doing this one, after dark as such. So,
can we swear?
We can swear, yeah.
Ah, fucking brilliant.
You already swore once, so I don't want to go on that.
Did I? No, I thought I.
No,
I try not to.
I know.
Try not to give the editor too much work to do. So I don't know if it was the fact that it was 3,000 people in an 18,000 seat arena, and maybe it was that mixed with, do you know the big area up the front with the computers that was to the side of the entrance,
the tech arena.
Yeah,
the tech area. Sorry,
sparse crowd.
Yeah,
everything very bright.
Yeah,
all these in close camera shots. Everything very bright. Man, this whole pay-per-view gave me a massive impact.
WCW
latter day WCW vibe.
You know
massive
what?
Latter
it's
day
funny
WCW
you say
vibe.
that because it really kind of did feel like WCW, like
Didn't
very
it?
much so. It did, yeah. You're spot on. You're spot on. And it's funny because when we get into it, I was like, oh man, this is a WCW thing. Like, it really is.
I'm so glad you got the same.
So I sent you a picture. I put it in our group chat of. I'll put it up on social media. It's a screenshot from just before the choose your loser's fate match. Weapon of choice match, right? And it just looked like a WCW thing. It was like a propped up chair and chain and like a pipe. I'm like, what are you doing? This looks ridiculous. And that's when I was like, oh man, okay, they're just WCW now. Like, that's all this is.
So before we get into the actual matches as well,
yeah.
Here was my main issue with this pay-per-view.
Go on.
They didn't go far enough. If
I
you
agree.
were going to do this thing,
yeah,
like this is totally fluffy. This is pure sports entertainment. Nobody is tuning into Taboo Tuesday to see like a Bryan Danielson 45-minute clinic. They should have just went ridiculous with these options. They should have set up some stupid gimmicks and just went absolute like, oh, it's Taboo Tuesday. You get to decide the future. Will you use a chair or a pipe or a chain? No, man, they should have had something ridiculous. Will this be a feeding frenzy piranha death match? Will this be
but remember, they were firmly, like, it wasn't even ruthless aggression yet. They had just kind of settled into this post-win drunken phase where they're like, okay, it was during the, and I hate to use this term because I personally don't believe in it. It was during Triple H's reign of terror. So like, I mean, the term I always used was greatest of all time. Like, I don't know what you people are complaining about, but
glory.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what you're complaining about, but it was during that time. So I think they were kind of like, right, we're going to go with this really innovative idea. We have this, and look, to be fair to WWE, they've always actually done that from a technological standpoint. They've always been at the cutting edge. Yep. Like, look at, and even to the network, they launched a network. When everybody was like, "That's ridiculous." Now everyone has a network. But look, I mean, I agree with you. I think for the weapon, and I will get into it because even the concept fell apart in the middle of the match. But right, let's start from the top. Right. So how this worked, you'd be able to vote all night. Okay. So just before the match, they'd go to the tech area and be like, right, who's going to win? So the show opened up and they introduced the basic concept. Jonathan Coachman was over in the tech area. I forgot how incredibly annoying he is. He's probably the single most annoying person in WWE history, and that's saying something. That is saying something.
That's a hell of an accolade.
I don't know why I find him so annoying. He gets under my skin like no one else can.
I get it. Like
it's like the ultimate shit-eating heel, you know. But he's not a heel. It's just even if he's just standing there, you're like, oh please go away.
I completely understand. He's not my particular guy. For me, it's Michael Cole.
He's like Michael.
Shut up, Cole.
He's like Michael Cole, but with the volume turned way up. You know what I mean? Whereas like there's no redeeming qualities to the coach. It's just you're just the worst. You know, but if that's the point, he's the best worker ever. But if that's not the point, holy hell, what a bad idea that was. You know. So he was there trying to be like, and I think putting him in that position where he's the MC, it was like, oh, okay, maybe a bad choice. Todd Phillips was there, who looks like, you know, a 12-year-old. So it was just hilarious. But anyway, yes, and then obviously Jerry King and JR are doing commentary. So we had a pretty good commentary team, to be fair. It was weird because it was like that. It was like WCW with WWE elements. I think that's kind of the vibe.
It absolutely was. It was like, again, because they had the big names there.
Yeah.
But it looked like an indie company or a smaller company that had spent loads of money to bring in big names, but still didn't have the production. Like, this pay-per-view is so bizarre. There's just, I don't know if it's the lighting or the filter, but it just does not look like a WWE pay-per-view.
There was a bit when Triple H was coming out, and it was so funny. And it sums up how Bush League is the term, right? So they were wheeling away the lingerie, and Triple H was walking out, and I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing? And then when he cuts to him, you know, he stands there, and then like the stage is in the way, so there's just a big like girder just in his way. I'm like, what are you doing? Why did go to a different camera angle? It's like they were like, okay, look, we have this show. We're going to be as cheap as possible, so you know, no one go mad, you know. And it really did kind of feel that way. It's very, very WCW, and it's funny because I was actually like, oh, we'll do something fun tonight. I'll find us a weird WCW show, and then I remembered this one. So this is where my head was at. I was like, I want to watch a WCW show. So this was, you know, a good midpoint. But okay, so it started off, and this was ridiculous, right? I forgot about this part.
Oh Lord, it instantly dates itself.
It does, yeah, it does. What was it for you? What was it for you that did the day?
It was lining all the women up. It was having them vote not on what type of match they were going to have, but on what the theme of their outfits for the match was going to be.
So yeah, this was a fulfill your fantasy battle royale, and I mean,
and then it was the fact that they all voted for Schoolgirl.
Yeah, and I'm just sitting there going, all right, all those choices were, you know, they would all be problematic in and of themselves, but
you know what?
Jerry Lawler was losing his mind the whole time. The whole time.
He has some absolute classic lines that
he does.
I've noted down here.
Oh, do you have them? Oh, thank you. Brilliant.
But we need, like, as a society, we need to come up with a different name for this look. So see that I'm a red-blooded male. I love the knee socks and the pleated skirt and the shirt tail. We just need to come up, like, that's a great look. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
We just need to come up with a different name for it other than Schoolgirl.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
We need to call it something else.
Yeah, it's so, like, okay, we won't talk about it just yet because the lines that I think you have were as they were coming down, like dressed, and it was just like, oh my God, this is just so creepy. Like, there's one point JR says she's not going to call you Uncle Jerry, and I'm just dying. Just dying. It's like, this is So yeah, I mean, look, it dates itself instantly, and you're just like, wow, the women have. I have to say, Trish, you know, absolute great sport because she's, you know, legitimately one of the women that redefined women's wrestling, despite all of this. Um, and Molly Holly as well, just like having none of it, you know. But
Hall
yeah,
of Famer Stacy Keibler in there.
yeah, but yeah, she was,
My
she was,
my personal favorite.
yeah, no, she was great. But like at the same time, it's just like, you know, she was all in. She's like, yeah, absolutely, you know. But that's actually kind of WCW as well because she was doing her Miss Hancock thing, like
Yeah,
revisited basically. Um, but yeah, so that is how we started off the show with the girls being lined up, and then right, that's what the show's going to be, or what their match is going to be. And it's for the
so
women's championship as well. So there's no even pinfalls. It's just basically a Royal Rumble.
yeah, except it's not even over the top rope. It's just out of the ring.
It's
Um,
which
I was
it's fun.
listening to. I mean, that's fair enough. Like
Yeah.
a lot of the women they had were not actually like trained wrestlers, so
Yeah.
it's probably a bit much to expect them to like a top rope, especially if you're not used to it. I remember when we were learning them in training,
Mm,
first time you do a top rope clothesline, that's that's a
that's pretty
scary moment.
scary. Yeah.
Um, but so I was listening to Grill and JR. He does a whole episode on Taboo Tuesday,
Mm,
and he made made a couple of good points. He said the women at the time knew what their role was.
yeah.
Like they had the new PG era of the company, and it was basically show us as much as you can without getting us kicked off TV. Um, like show us in terms of, you know, be as scantily clad as you can without
Mm,
getting us kicked off TV. But he also said, and I thought this was a really good point, that the women's wrestling we have today, you know, it's actually respected as like a competition and a sport, and they're taken as seriously as the men and all that.
yeah.
He was saying we have that because of the kind of the divas era, because even though they weren't doing like great wrestling or anything, they kept women central to the show. So
And you
even though
know what?
we look back at it now and it's a bit, uh, he says this was a genuinely important era in the development of women's wrestling, which I thought was a fair point.
And you know what? That is a very good point because so we looked at WrestleMania 15 in our timeline.
Yeah,
After that, women disappear from the show basically for years. They're still on it, but not as competitors. They're like valets.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
think it's by the end of '99, they're just gone. They're gone until like 2001.
They actually
So
do drop the women's title, don't they?
yeah,
After is
Sable.
it
Yeah, after Sable's big run,
a
I think.
Lon- is it when a London Blaze goes to
No, that's years.
WCW?
No, that's years before. That was the first time it was dropped. The title was dropped
Oh, that
twice.
was.
Yeah,
Oh man,
yeah. So I mean, look. Yeah, was this? And we will get into it, but the names that are there, like Gail Kim is in that match, and I'm like, oh my god,
yeah.
there's Gail Kim. You know,
I was so yeah. Whenever she came out, I was like,
I couldn't
"Whoa,
believe it. I was like, wow,
yeah,
Gail Kim.
whoa.
You know, she's one of the greatest of all time, like genuinely. And it's this weird transition period as well, where you're seeing kind of like the last vestiges of the Attitude Era being washed away, but also modern wrestling kind of forming. But it's still, you know, Jerry's still losing his mind. You know, that's
Yeah."
kind of like the theme.
Although I get the feeling that if you know, when Jerry's in Walmart doing his shopping, if he sees two particularly plump melons, he loses his mind in aisle 7. You know?
That's fair. Okay, so look, we'll talk about the opening match. So the opening match was Shelton Benjamin, who so they had the lads lined up as well, which was funny. I that bit got me right, where it's like all the jobbers just all dressed, ready to compete, and he made a point of that, and I think it was kind of cool because
Yeah.
it added. Okay, right, you don't really know. Poor Rhino, I felt bad for Rhino. He's just standing there like, oh, you know, okay, I'll go back to
Here,
catering.
actually,
Go on.
yeah. I mean, you felt bad for any of the guys
And
there.
Christian had a little thing saying vote for Christian. I was like, oh man, you know, but
Well, you felt bad for any of the guys there who didn't get the match, but you could hear the live crowd. So whenever they were going around them, you could hear the live crowd reacting to each of the names, and a lot of the names were just getting no reaction.
No reaction.
But fair play to Rhino. He got a very modest but respectable pop whenever his name was mentioned.
And it did kind of add that element of, oh well, okay, this is legit, because I've never actually seen that before. Where they're like, okay, we don't actually know who's. Now, when I was watching this as a kid, I didn't, I had assumed it was at some level worked, or they had to figure out. But no, Jericho went out
up until this afternoon when I really looked into it. I just assumed this was all worked.
No, like Jericho legitimately was told as he was walking out, "You're losing the belt." So I mean,
poor Jericho. He not. Did you ever hear of the way they told him he was winning the
undisputed
title?
Yeah,
like they were in catering one day, and was it Vince deliberately sat at the next table to him and just loudly said, "Yeah, you can tell the business is going to hell when they're putting the belt on Jericho."
Oh God!
What an asshole! That's how they told him, "Hey, you're winning the number one title, the unified number one title.
The first guy to ever win it.
You're going to beat The Rock and Austin on the same night."
Oh, that's so funny. But yeah, like the match itself was really good. I have to say, I actually was not expecting the match to be as good as it was. But it's Shelton Benjamin and Chris Jericho. I mean, of course, it's going to be good in their prime as well. So, I think Jericho as an IC champion gets overlooked. Yeah, I think this is like,
man, his multiple IC runs have all, like, they're peppered with absolute gold.
And it's funny because I didn't expect a match of this quality to be on a show like this, but fair play to Shelton Benjamin. He showed why he could carry this belt. However, the actual win itself was kind of a roll up. It's like, really? A roll up? Okay, fair enough.
Oh, no. I actually thought the ending was quite good. So it wasn't a roll up. It was a T-bone suplex.
It was a T-bone suplex into a roll up though, wasn't it? It wasn't like a proper pin. Jericho was still fighting the pin.
No, I think it was just the way you hook someone for a T-bone suplex.
Okay.
I think whatever way you land, whenever you pin them like that, it looks like because your leg is between their leg. It looks like a roll up.
It looks like a roll up. Yeah, okay.
But I thought Shelton Benjamin's T-bone suplex, I thought it had real impact to it. Like,
but Jericho was still moving though. He was like almost kicking out. It wasn't like he wasn't like finished. Which I mean,
but that's what I liked about it. He kind of sold it as if he was, because the impact of it was so good. He kind of sold it as if he was like momentarily just winded,
right?
And he thought he was, I thought this was a very good, particularly for this ridiculous sports entertainment show. I thought this was a very good wrestling ending to this match.
Okay.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this.
I'll take that. I think that's a fair assumption and summation of the match.
Just before we go on, while we're talking about Jericho's Intercontinental title reigns, man, his I can't remember which year it was, but his run when, do you remember him and Benoit had the ladder match for the Intercontinental title?
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite things about that is that is one of the last ladder matches I can remember that was more like the early days, kind of Shawn, Razor, Brett ladder matches than what we have now. Than the Hardys, the TLC, and now and as much as I love it, into AEW, like you have these massive crazy spot fests.
Yeah,
I would actually love to see that again. A one-on-one ladder match, two guys using the ladder as a weapon, as a tool, but not triple flipping off into eight pile tables.
That's fair. Yeah, so a quick word on the setup. Actually, the set was amazing. So as WCW as it looked, the Titantron was a monitor and he had a keyboard, and I just think it's the coolest set ever. I really do.
Yeah,
I really do. I mean, look, it looks cheap and dingy, but there is something to be said for physical sets.
100. And look, I understand why companies don't do them, because like you have to cart this thing around that you only use once a year, but it gives shows a whole other vibe. I absolutely love physical sets, and WCW was great at them.
They were, and again, I think that's probably what this WCW feel is. It's like, wow, okay, this is very much a WCW show in spirit.
Yeah.
So then look,
maybe it's the fact that nobody knew what was going to happen.
yeah,
Nobody knew what the booking was. Maybe that's why it felt like WCW.
so we go backstage and there's like a B story that's going on, right? Where Edge, Benoit, and Shawn Michaels are finding out who's going to face Triple H for the belt. Edge takes it badly because obviously he's not picked. Benoit's kind of like, oh yeah, man, look, it's all good, Shawn, go win. Edge just leaves, right? And it's set up that Edge and Benoit are going to go for the tag belts later on, right? So keep that in mind because it's going to be important. Then we have the women coming out, and look, Trish Stratus looks incredible. Genuinely, she does. She, you forget how, let's just leave it there. But I mean, everyone was happy. Everyone.
Look, you're still. We're all much more enlightened these days, and blah blah blah.
But spade a spade,
Yeah,
spade a spade.
Exactly. I still watch that entrance, going, "This is terribly objectifying," while wiping drool from.
This is so terrible. Please, I can't help but look away.
This is awful. And now the remote seems to have put the telly on slow motion. This is what's going on here. What, my shirt's falling off. What's happening?
So I mean, look,
damn you, Lawler.
The difference I think between this and like other things of this ilk, they know exactly what they're doing. They're all in on it. They're all, and it has a level of good spiritness to it where it's.
Yes, there's a larky carry on.
Yeah, it's proper kind of like, no, we know what we're doing. This is, and like Trish is having the best time as well, which is even funny because at the end of it, she's like, no, I'm going to like milk this for as much as I can. And I'm like, okay, this is actually really funny.
And do you know what?
Go on.
Not actually the worst battle royal I've ever seen.
I was so surprised. Well, look, right, look at the ladies that's in it, right? Nydia, fair enough, not great. Jazz, really not great. Gail Kim, brilliant. Victoria, Stacey, and Molly Holly in there with Trish.
And
this was very good. This was very good.
I don't remember, like, obviously, because I'm thinking back when I was younger, I was a bit distracted. But I don't remember Stacey actually being decent in the, like, she's not going to win any titles or anything, but actually being decent in the ring. Like, a lot of the times with women who aren't like fully wrestlers, they kind of like awkwardly really look like they're cooperating, and they take really awkward looking bumps. But no, Stacey really threw herself into this.
Yeah, and it is that kind of and that's why it's important as well. Like, without their work, they wouldn't have, overcome all the stuff they had to overcome. Like, look, this was a goofy time anyway. We'll get to it with Eugene and Eric Bischoff, but like. They overcame it to really kind of establish what women's wrestling is now. And sorry, I must say this again as a lifelong TNA fan, right? One of the reasons why I liked TNA was women's wrestling. Who built that division? Gail Kim and Victoria.
Yep.
Gail Kim, on her back, built that entire division along with Mickie James later on. So, I mean, come on, like these ladies, they really, really need to get the respect that's due. However, that being said, Jerry the King Lawler had some amazing lines. So I really hope you wrote them down because there were many in the Chrissy Hemme match. But go on, what ones did you get?
So I mean, look, he had the usual slew of, oh my God, I can't control myself. I'm on the precipice of climax here every time a new woman walked out of the ring. But the one that really got me was when Stacey Keibler's getting into the ring.
Yeah.
And she's doing her, draping those two long legs over the ropes, and she does that real provocative bend over as she gets in the ring.
Yeah.
So, like, as always happens, the cameraman is waiting for her, and
he misses it.
he gets right behind her,
Yeah.
and all you can hear is JR going, "Get in there, cameraman, get in there."
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's right up her arse. Like,
Yeah.
if he's any more in there, he'll be giving her a colonoscopy. Like,
No, the best line I got was where, because they're all dressed as schoolgirls, right? And he was like, "Oh, I'd love to be a principal." I'm just like, "Oh my god, stop!" And he's just like, "Well, not her."
Partially on schoolgirl look.
And then he's just like, "Oh, well, maybe not Molly Holly. She looks like one of the teachers." And it's just like, that's incredible. Oh, brilliant.
We need to come up with a different name for this look though. The socks, pleated skirts, pigtails, and white shirt. It's a great look, but it needs we can't keep calling it schoolgirl. It needs a different name.
Yeah, it's past the point.
Like I get it, because we all were teenagers at one stage, that I think, like, I don't think people like that look because they're perverts. I think people like that look because that was the look when they were teenagers and they were first experiencing, like attraction and affection and really noticing other people. So I think that's why people have an attachment to that look. But
it comprehensively won on the vote. Like that still shocked me, but I was just like, okay. And the crowd went mental for it too. So I was like, all right, fair enough.
But it just goes to show how much society has changed since 2004. So
there's no way that would happen. There's no way they would even think of doing something like that nowadays.
So back in 2004, schoolgirls are sexy, nurses are sexy. Here in 2023, we've obviously had the whole litany of, Jeffrey Epstein's island and slew of stars. So the schoolgirl thing is kind of out. And now whenever you think of nurses, you just think of someone who's worked into the ground and paid nothing and constantly on strike. So society was so much better back then, wasn't it?
So much better. So going from there, we had a backstage segment with La Resistance, and that was pretty terrible. But we then did go into the next segment, which would be
I have forgotten all about this.
So as I said, folks, there is some setup. I have to say, I love the match card where it's like all the kind of like code and stuff. It looks great. Bring this back, WWE. This was great. This was really good.
Elements of this show, like this was a terrible show. But elements of this were, you shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
No, I mean,
good ideas in here.
Yeah, like the show was terrible, but the packaging around it was really good. It's like this is a great little package. And
it was 2 hours and 45 minutes.
It was a super tight show.
Like, it can be terrible. Like, who cares?
So look, there is some setup on this. So this is the weapon of choice match, right? So we'll get into that in a moment. But there's I'm not gonna say good video package. There is a video package that outlines one of the most confusing storylines in WWE history. So Matt Hardy, in real life, was cheated on with Edge and Lita. In real life, Matt Hardy would then have a feud with Edge. Wait, hold on a second. No. Hold on a second. I'm confused. Did that happen before or after this? Anyway, I think that might have happened. No, it happened just after. Sorry.
After, yeah.
Just after. So forget that. That happens in the future. So what happened here was Matt and Lita were in a relationship, right? In real life, as we know, and that would eventually lead to the Edge thing, which would be 2 years later or a year and a half later. Actually, pretty much after this it would happen. So I'm not super wrong.
You'll have to forgive us, folks. We got our time machine from Lidl, and sometimes
we did. Sometimes it's gone on.
Like, it's a bit shaky.
It's a bit shaky. So right, Matt and Lita are in a relationship, right? In real life and also in kayfabe. Kane then has a feud with Matt. He wins that feud, marries Lita against her will, and they make it explicitly clear that she doesn't want it.
Yeah.
Then somehow impregnates her, which also...
Well, not somehow. If
I know.
Made it explicitly clear she didn't want to get married.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, it wasn't just the marriage; it was the whole thing that he went through on in storyline.
Yeah.
Then she somehow comes around to liking Kane, despite what happened.
Stockholm syndrome, I assume.
Then Gene Snitsky causes Lita to fall. The pregnancy is lost, so the baby is no longer there. And then Snitsky has a feud where it's not his fault, and it would become his theme music eventually. And then he would become a psychopath, basically, trying to beat up Kane. And this feud would then lead into this match, which is the pipe would be the big thing.
Hold on.
Hold on.
Before the feud led into this match, the feud led to one of the greatest / worst moments of wrestling ever, when Gene Snitsky drop kicked a baby
into the audience.
He came down to the audience with a pram and took a baby in. Obviously, it was a fake baby, and then just punted it into the 12th row.
So the big storyline here is that Kane has a chain and Snitsky has a pipe, right? So that's where this, and then they also worked the chair into it at some point, right? So they shoehorned the chair in, but the chair wasn't.
I have an issue with the chair. We'll talk about it later.
We will. Oh no, I think it's going to be the same issue. So the video package kind of covers everything, and it turns out that Lita actually does care for Kane, right? So that's where we are before this. So we get a wonderful visual which sums up the entire pay-per-view, and I just love it. It's the 3 weapons, right? Displayed in the most bizarre way ever, like they're in a museum or something. And everyone's cheering these inanimate objects, and I'm like, this is just silly. And I don't even know why it's so silly. It's just so, they have little podiums and everything for them. So
it reminded me of that episode of The Simpsons where Homer's an astronaut.
The inanimate carbon rod.
And the employee of the month award goes to this inanimate carbon rod. So
the chain wins. Fair enough. So here is my understanding of this match.
Chain wins.
So here was my understanding of this before, and it looks like the worst chain ever, by the way. It's not even like a fancy chain with like spikes or anything. It's just a chain.
Yeah, and whenever they said chain, I was thinking maybe
with a hook or something,
or even like a dog collar match.
Yeah, no, it's just a chain.
Literally.
So, okay, so my understanding of this match, and they never explicitly said it, but it did kind of make. This is where I was thinking, right? You can only use the weapon that they picked.
They did explicitly say it.
Did they? Okay.
I went back and checked. The coach explicitly states that the weapon that is voted for will be legal.
Sorry, there's a sign as Snitsky's walking down that says baby killer. Oh my god. And then there's a sign that says that it's like vote pro-life, right? Or pro-Snitsky. Oh my god. This is horrific. And this is why it's not on the radio, because we just can't. We just can't. Oh, well, I just noticed those signs now. Holy hell. Right, so that was my understanding of the match going in, right? Where we're like, right, they can only use the chain. Within 5 minutes, they start using the chair in front of the ref.
Yeah.
That's how Snitsky wins. So explain that to me. I don't understand what happened.
But this is what I'm saying, like, with WWE, it doesn't matter if it's a crappy little 2004 pay-per-view or if it's the WrestleMania where they become a $21 billion conglomerate with UFC and Endeavor. They cannot help themselves creating problems. Like, all you had to do is just say, vote for which weapon they start off with. You know,
that would make sense. Or they get to carry to the ring with them.
Yeah, or one of them gets to start off holding it, but
anything.
They make these problems for themselves, and I don't know why. I don't understand it.
It's just like, I was watching, I'm like, the ref is literally looking right at him.
It's like that's it, ref. That's a DQ. It's over.
That's DQ.
Like,
And the match keeps going, and then he wins, and it's like, how did he? That's a DQ. He's DQ'd 4 times. Like, I don't know.
So with this match and a match later had it made me raise a couple of issues. But yeah, so one thing, do you think Snitsky forgot to pin Kane? Because so the match ends when Snitsky sets Kane's head up in a chair, kind of like to Pillmanize him, kind of like the way Brian Pillman's ankle was broken, except with his head in the chair instead of his ankle.
Yeah,
and then Snitsky jumps down on it, and Kane starts selling it like mad. He's spitting,
bleeding everywhere. Yeah,
and then the referee's just like, "Oh, this is over." And then Snitsky gets out of the ring and walks off. And then, like a minute later, he gets back in the ring and pins Kane. Do you think he forgot to pin him?
Yeah, I think so. Because the EMTs run in, and he's like, "Oh wait, I need to finish the match," and he runs back in.
He had one job, Snitsky.
Oh yeah, no, it's terrible altogether. So
the other thing I noticed was, so Kane spits up a load of blood. Yeah, right.
Great visual.
It's obviously, it looked really good, but it's obviously a blood pack.
Oh, of course.
And later in the show, in the main event, Ric Flair and Randy Orton also gets blood really quickly, really weirdly out of nowhere. Yeah. Like I say, I'm an AEW fan, so I watch a lot of blading, so I think I know a blade job when I see one.
Yeah.
It looked like a blood. Wasn't there a period around 2004 where they tried this out? They went with blood packs instead of blading.
They might have. I mean, the eternal bleeding thing kind of made sense with the blood pack, but I didn't notice it. All I noticed with the main event was Ric Flair they were both bleeding everywhere, and Ric Flair was bleeding more than everybody.
I think Ric Flair was legitimately bleeding because
you just touch him and he bleeds.
He's Ric Flair. he's the John Moxley of the past. But I think this is around that era when they tried out blood packs for a while.
It would make sense. So the EMTs take him to the back, and then there's a weird Edge promo and sets up for our next match, which, look, we haven't broke this out in a while. We're going to the KD Vick scale. The KD Vick scale. I think this whole segment gets about a 5 out of 10 on the KD Vick scale. So it gets 5 KD Vicks out of 10. And not because it's for many reasons, right? I don't know what specifically makes this so bad. It's just kind of everything. Like, look, I have to say, Eric Bischoff comes out. He is a legitimate black belt. I think it's in karate. His kicks are quite good, I will have to say. He can actually throw some really decent kicks. Eugene. That's what gives it the majority of the KD Vicks.
So for anyone who doesn't know, Eugene plays a developmentally disabled wrestler. Would that be the?
Yeah, he's Eric Bischoff's nephew.
Do they ever put a name on whatever condition he has? No.
He's just Eugene.
General.
Yeah. So basically,
well, there's 2 arguments you made with Eugene. One of them is that, look, it's representation.
True.
You have a wrestler out there with a learning disability, but he's still out there wrestling for WWE, and you can make the argument that it's representation. The problem is that the guy who plays Eugene is not in any way disabled. This is the disabled version of blackface. Like he's coming out and he's doing he's sticking his tongue out and he's twisting his hands around really weird. Oh man, this is uncomfortable.
And the whole look again, a different time, right? But the crowd itself are uncomfortable at points, and you can see in them they're like, "Oh, what are we watching?" And look, it was a babyface win. So the things about the basically losers fates match, right? So whatever lost, that was it. So it was a hair hair match, basically. So hair versus hair. The loser would get his head shaved bald.
Yeah.
And Eric Bischoff, has been silver for a very long time, right? So his hair was dyed black for years. And so I think that's probably why.
So apparently one of the things, again, that I got from the Grilling with JR was that Vince wasn't aware of this.
Really?
And whenever they started cutting Eric's hair and they found out that he's actually quite grey, Vince, he lost it. He was delighted. Like, he was so happy with this. He got really into it and he got really abusive. Like he was so, do you know when you get excited and you start slagging someone and you go a bit too far?
Yeah.
He got really abusive with Bischoff over it.
Well, see, I thought this was fixed. Genuinely. I thought this was fixed because I was like, oh man, no, obviously they have to, they know this is, to mess with him. But, that's surprising. So basically what happens then is, the shave the head thing happens and John and Coachman's like, oh no, not really, let's poll again or let's poll the crowd. So that goes back and forward for a while. Vince comes out and he's like, listen, I promised the people to give them what they want. And again, I'm like, where did this Vince go? You never give the fans what they want.
I promised the people to give them what they want. And what they want is Roman Reigns winning at his third WrestleMania in a row.
So Vince comes out and he cuts a pretty funny promo, to be fair. And he's like, if you walk away, Bischoff, you're fired. So Bischoff does get his head shaved. He gives proper abuse to John and Coachman, which is hilarious. John Coachman has to strip down and wear the dress that's there, and he has to wear it for the whole night.
So
Vince has a line.
Hilarious when he makes him strip down. Like, it's one of those things again that's quite uncomfortable now, but it's
very
so funny.
It's so funny, and like he says a line, right?
I think I know which one.
Oh,
you better be wearing underwear.
No, it was. No, it was another line. It caught me completely by surprise because I was just like, oh, I can't believe he said that. He's like, so he puts it on, he doesn't button it up, and he's like, Coach, what are you doing? Putting it up. Don't be a slut. It's just the funniest line ever.
I think I missed that.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Go back and watch it. Oh, go back and watch it, and he says it, and it's just so funny.
I must have missed that because I was still laughing from when he goes, all right, take your shirt off. Now take your pants off. You better be wearing underwear.
No, yeah, when he doesn't button it up, that's when that line comes.
Oh my God.
Oh man, Vince is just, for everything he's done,
look,
he's just hilarious.
He's one of those. Do you know what he's like? He's like Boris Johnson. This utter buffoon gives off this impression of buffoonery, and because of that he's kind of likable and gets away with all the legitimately terrible things that he does.
He's more like Heihachi, and even looks like Heihachi now from Tekken, where he's goofy but also does this.
We forgot that at the start of the show. We forgot to discuss Vince's new
his new look. Where he looks like Heihachi. Yeah.
So he's dyed what remains of his hair black, and he has grown a pencil-thin French policeman's mustache.
It's the most bizarre mustache I've ever seen.
It's so strange.
It's so strange.
I think that's what it is. I think he's going out there with this Endeavour thing. He's aware that all these allegations hang over him, and he says, do you know what? If I go out there looking like a fucking lunatic, that's all. People will only talk about that. And people
everybody.
People will forget about all the. Here, do you remember all those rape allegations against Vince? Vince who? The guy with the bizarre mustache. Yeah, what is that mustache about? Like, I think that's.
That wouldn't shock me. Wouldn't shock me. Vince is like one step ahead of everybody else.
Isn't he actually though? Like,
no, he actually is. Like he gets kicked out, and he's like, right, fuck yous, come what he's sold.
He's Hank Scorpio.
Oh man, like I don't know. in character, like in kayfabe and in reality, like because there is no difference. Like
No,
that
yeah,
Vince that we just saw, that's just Vince. That's just him.
yeah.
You know, it's like okay.
You had you guys like Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes who lived the gimmick, but no, there was no gimmick with Vince.
So it was just Vince the whole time.
If Vince was a penniless fella selling hot dogs out of a cart, he would be the exact same person.
Oh man, but no, I'll urge everybody to go back and watch that segment and just listen to the lines that Vince is saying. It's comedy gold.
Come here. What do you think of hair versus hair matches in general?
I'll be honest with you. No, say go on.
Well, because what I always find with them is, like, I like the idea. It's a good concept. You can embarrass someone, and it's really good if you do have like Kurt Angle, like a top guy who's starting to lose the locks. You know, you can do that, and that's a transition. What bugs me about them is they never seem to invest in a good pair of shears that can.
I think that's the point, though.
What you need in a hair versus hair is to get the guy down and have the crowd, because the crowd will be hot for about 30 seconds. You know, the crowd's going mad. But what always seems to happen is to get the guy down and the dudes don't know how to work the shears, or they're set to the wrong level, or the whole thing is taking like 5 minutes, and it burns the crowd out in the first 30 seconds.
I think where you saw that most was at WrestleMania with Trump. You know, and basically what kept that afloat was Austin stunning a man a bunch of times. So I mean, like, it can work, but I'll be honest with you, I don't see the appeal in it. Except with Kurt, I mean, that actually made sense. He was losing his hair, so they're like, right, we need to, you know.
It can work. It
can work. I don't see them as I never saw them as a feud ender. I saw it quite archaic. It's a hangover from the territories, you know. I think
I just wish they'd invest.
Yeah, like
just invest in a good pair of shears.
When Punk did it with Mysterio and lost, I think that's the only time that they actually had a good shears that did it. But yeah, if you're going to do it, have, like, you know, one there that's set at a 1, and you're just like in, and that's it, and you can get it done and over quickly. But you know, what they did here with Bischoff actually was quite good, because, you know, almost by making it look terrible, it actually worked, because he walked out with like a weird mullet, and you know, it was embarrassing, but actually it's the only time that it actually did it, like, in modern wrestling. You know, I know this is like 17 years old, but it actually achieved its goal of embarrassing someone, because
2004.
Yeah, 2004.
It's 2023. It's almost 20 years old.
Oh wow, okay, I was off. Wow,
that make you feel.
Oh, I didn't like that. I thought it was. Oh well, okay.
That hit
Thanks,
me
Martin.
watching it as well.
Thanks, Martin. I thought it was in like 15 years. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, but I had that exact same thing watching. I was like, God, yeah, 2004. What's that? Like 15, 14, 15? And I was like,
no, nearly 20 years.
It's 2023.
Damn. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for that.
I had the exact same reaction as you, except I got to have it in privacy. I didn't have it on a podcast.
But yeah, I mean, in theory, it can work. I think it needs to be a very set of circumstances. Either, look, the guy's losing his hair, do it. It makes sense. And he's like a heel, so there's some kind of reason for it. Or you do it this way. I think doing it this way was actually one of the best ways, because it legit embarrassed Bischoff, because he was actually dyeing his hair for years, and he ran out, and it's the worst Bischoff's ever looked, and that was the point. So it's like, okay, right, that makes sense. But doing it in other ways, it's like, okay, it's kind of silly, you know. But all wrestling silly. But it's my least favorite of the gimmick matches, other than like a strap match, because no one can really do them.
Oh, come on, man! You
know, a good strap match is great, but
AEW and Ring of Honor.
Oh yeah, but I'm talking about the Rock's Brahma Bull match. That's what I'm talking about.
A strap match is. Joe, I always find whenever they do a strap match now, I like I think, wow, they must have incredible faith in these guys.
Yeah.
Because you're 100% right. A good one is amazing, but that's it. There's the only two options are good or dreadful.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of dreadful, we have
what a segue. We're such pros.
Absolutely. The weirdest tag team match I've seen in a while. It's about a 16-minute tag team 16-minute long match, right? It's for the World Tag Team Championship. So set up earlier in the night. Edge and Benoit didn't obviously get selected for the World Title shot, so this was their consolation prize against La Resistance, who not really a good tag team. Well, they are a good tag team, but never really got over. This was a weird time in WWE where you had like the Highlanders and the Spirit Squad and just awful teams that were there just to take L's.
Yeah.
And they did. And basically the B storyline here was Edge is annoyed, right? So halfway through this match, Edge just leaves. And Benoit wins the tag team belt by himself.
I mean, it was a good way of putting Benoit over as
but hold on,
legitimately dangerous.
But before you jump in, right? So it's not like Edge just refuses to compete. He wrestles most of the match, and then he just leaves. My question is, so you're right, I agree with you. It does put over Benoit as legitimately dangerous. Again, let's not dwell on that segment.
Didn't even think of that. I genuinely didn't even think of that.
I said it and then I'm like, okay, no, I need to clarify.
Do you know what? I think it's time to call time on the Benoit stuff, because what I find is that anytime anyone wants to say, and look, the man was an objectively incredible wrestler.
Oh, absolutely.
And I find that anytime anyone wants to say anything, like if they want to go, oh, that Jericho Benoit ladder match was really good, but of course I don't agree with the actions of. I think right. It's been long enough now that we can just assume you do not support Benoit killing his family. So you could just from now on you could just say it was a good match without having to caveat that you're not a supporter of murder suicide.
That's okay. That's fair. Again, this is why this one is not on the radio, folks. Because I would have to spend hours editing this show. I don't want to do that. So look, okay. It built him up as a legitimate threat. You can literally beat La Resistance by himself. But my question, I suppose, and it's weird because I was watching the match and I'm like, okay, this made no sense. Why did Edge not just walk away at the beginning? Why did he go in there and wrestle the majority of the match? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
It's just it's just so random and bizarre.
I mean, yeah, it doesn't even make any sense. Like if he'd gotten like a particularly nasty blow or a particularly rough move done him, he's like, this isn't worth it. But no, he just kind of walks off. Yeah, it was very strange. One of the other things I noticed from this match was the wee interview they did with Edge before it reminded me so much of Kevin Nash. So they're talking to Edge and they're going, you're going for the tag titles. And Edge is like, look, I've been a tag time world champion 10 times, but I want the world title. This tag title opportunity, this is just a consolation. And it reminded me of, is it when Nash in the 90s, he loses the world title, but he's still the tag champion. And he goes, oh yeah, I'm still the tag champion. What a pittance. Jeez, Vince just hates tag team wrestlers.
Yeah, but this was the time when it wasn't relevant. It really wasn't. They would bring in guys who were tag team champions and then would just be treated as second rate, and that was it. Rewatching this again, actually, I think what may have made Edge walk away is he gets tagged in and the referee doesn't accept it. Then he walks away. So maybe there's more to this than I initially thought. So Edge
Well-
walks away dejected. It's not like he walks off. Okay,
So I don't particularly remember the follow up to this. Like,
either do I.
so you don't know? Like, does Benoit find someone else? Does he defend the titles on his own? Does he?
I think he defends. My guess here, and I'll look it up for next week. I think he defends them on his own, loses them, and then it sets up a feud with
Edge.
Edge and Benoit. Yeah,
Yeah, why didn't you come out? Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, look, right. You want to be the world champion. That's great. We all
But-
want to be the world champion. But you had a legitimate shot at the tag titles. Like, in terms of kayfabe, that's still a big payday.
Yeah.
Why? And even if you're going to interfere in the world title match later, yeah, you can still do that after you've won the tag titles.
Here's what's bizarre, though, right? Edge leaves, legitimately goes backstage, and some lad is there with a bag. Be like, here you go, and there's a car waiting for him. So I mean, like, okay, I can understand you left because you didn't get tagged in, but it sends mixed messages. It's like, wait a minute, your car is on. Like, there's no one in the car, sorry, but the lights are on. So it's like, did you leave that on the whole? I mean, that's how your battery dies. It's just,
Edge just doesn't care about climate change. Edge drives up to the venue and leaves the car running.
so it's nice and warm.
It's like, no, lads, it's freezing out there. What's the pay-per-view? 2 hours, 45 minutes? Nah, just leave the engine running.
Just keep it toasty for me.
Keep it warm.
And there's some lad with his bag. It's like, wait, hold on. Okay, so Triple H walked away on the last show we watched. I watched a show from 2002 where DX came back for a night, right? And Triple H turns on Shawn Michaels and then leaves the arena straight away. It was a random Raw. And that made sense because he gets up and leaves like within 5 minutes. He goes back and gets his stuff and hops into a limo that's there, you know?
Yeah.
This was weird because it's like, hold on a minute. You had no time to call anybody. Is this like something that look, if I leave, you know, have my bag ready? It doesn't make any sense. It was weird. It was weird.
Maybe that's part of his heel gimmick is he has a bag boy. Your job. Listen, I never know whenever I'm going to leave somewhere. So your job is to just always
wait.
be ready. Okay.
And if you're not ready, I'm gonna come get you.
I'm gonna spear you in half.
Oh man.
If you're not
But yeah.
ready, I'm going to lock you in my car while I'm at the next show with the engine running, and you'll be cooked to death by the heater.
And no windows down.
No windows down.
So yeah, Benoit celebrates with the two belts, and I have to say the old tag belts look great. So Benoit celebrating like he's won the big match, which I mean, I guess he did in a sense.
Actually, well, it was. Do you know? For me, it was the only. This is so weird. It was the only moment of the night that felt like a huge moment.
Yeah, which was weird, even though it wasn't.
Benjamin, even though it wasn't, yeah. And Shelton Benjamin won the Intercontinental title. Like, that was legitimately a bigger moment.
Yeah,
We obviously had a world title match.
yeah.
But yeah, for me, this. Do you know what it is?
Go on.
I think Benoit's
Selling of winning.
expression, yeah,
Yeah,
because it looked exactly like when he won the world title. You know, it's
that's what I thought too. Yeah,
it's that half crying, hugging the title thing. It's like you're like, holy hell, this is a massive deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from there, we have our next match. Christy Hemme, and I forgot Christy Hemme was in this. So she won Diva Search, which was a reality / competition, kind of like American Idol to basically bring in divas against Carmella. Not current Carmella, Miss Carmella. She was a Playboy magazine's Miss April 2003, Playmate of the Year for 2004, and was a runner-up in Diva Search. So this is a lingerie pillow fight. Now, it's exactly what you think it is. The girls undress behind these big yoke bobs, and
So they have
these box-like structures.
these
And
huge screens, right? So
yeah, and
it's to get well. They're not see through. What it is it's
silhouette. Sorry, silhouette.
Yeah, there's a light behind them, and it's to create like a sexy silhouette as the girls are undressing.
So the choice was aerobic challenge, which I still don't know what that is. A lingerie pillow fight, which okay, I never seen that in WWE before, or an evening gown match, which we've seen many times in WWE. So
Yep.
yeah, the
Most horrifyingly with Pat Patterson and Gerald Briscoe.
but it's funny because like 10% of the crowd still voted for, or the audience still voted for the aerobics challenge, and I'm like,
Probably like yourself, out of sheer
sheer curiosity. Yeah,
I wonder what that is.
So they had like rails of like clothing there and stuff like that. So the girls obviously go in and change, and King is absolutely just
Apoplectic.
he's just crazy. He's just going off on one and stuff like that. So then the girls,
while we're talking about King, so they set up these two big screens.
yes,
The
box
girls
like structures.
Yeah, these box-like structures. The girls go behind them, and it casts a silhouette.
Yeah.
Now, Christy Hemme
E.
stands at the right distance between the screen and the light, so that it casts her full shadow on the screen as she's undressing and changing all her stuff.
Yeah.
Carmelo stands too close to the light, so all you get is her lower half. So it looks like we're about to have a fight between Christy Hemme and this giant woman. But as they're changing clothes into their lingerie or lingerie, as we would call it, just the sleaziest porn music is playing.
Yeah, you know what I was thinking. Who they should have roped in for this to make a special guest appearance.
Don't.
You know who? You should have rang up Mark. Should have rang up Mark Van. And said, "Hey, Mark, what do you think?"
Well, so this is where Mark Madden wouldn't have suited, because we had Jerry Lawler's larky carry-on vibes wouldn't have meshed with Mark Madden's sex offender vibes. But there's a bit in it where Christy Hemme, right? She bends over and she lifts up this like long tube, because you can only see the silhouette.
Yeah.
And then she starts putting it on her foot, right? So it's obviously like a pair of stockings or tights. And all you hear is Jerry Lawler going, "Oh my God, what are those?" It's like, just putting them on her foot. It's like, it's very limited. Like, what do you think they are? It's not a helmet. Like,
so there's a bit in the match as well where Christy pulls out the chicken fillets.
oh my God, yeah.
And to start the match, and like Jerry and JR are like, what's going on? And the best line is, JR is like, "Oh, well, a fan has a souvenir of Taboo Tuesday." Oh my God, what is this nonsense?
Here,
Go on.
how has, we need to do an eBay search, has
I was thinking this too.
Carmelo's bra padding from Taboo Tuesday 2004, has that ever been put up for sale?
It has to be. It has to be. I was thinking that too. I'm like, I guarantee you someone bought that, and it's like enshrined on someone's like, shelf.
Do you know, if somebody hasn't bought it, I have an idea for how we could make a quick buck on eBay.
Remember the random pay-per-view for 2004?
Yeah.
So Christy does actually win, and I have to say, like, Christy Hemme, yeah, she was a great addition to Impact Wrestling. I don't really remember her doing much in WWE. Looks great attitude, seems to be all there to give 110% to be sports entertained. The other one really didn't seem to be that into it.
She hadn't. Carmella,
yeah,
I don't know who she is. Had absolutely no idea what she was doing.
Yeah. Christy carried this whole feud, I would say. But there's a great line. I think by great line, I mean it's a Mark Madden line from King, and she has like a bit of she has a feather in her mouth basically, and King's like, "Come here, let me help you take that."
Oh my God! I'm telling you,
and JR is just there like, "King, please stop."
I'm telling you, that man is banned from every Walmart in the he walks around just screaming at melons or salivating over breast of chicken, or
Oh no! Oh, sorry. Hold on.
you'll find him in a
Hold on.
in a catatonic state, just jacking off bananas in the fruit aisle like he's demented.
There's the best cutback, right? There's the best cutback. So it cuts to the outside of the arena, right? And they're setting up, and where the arena is, where the commentary booth was, this is when they moved it up towards the stage. And Jerry Lawler is with paper towels, toweling himself off.
Oh my god!
After the match, and this is like, and you're seeing the crew like move all the box like structures away and stuff, and King is just smiling, and his eyes are bugging out of his head as he's patting himself off, and you're like, holy hell. Like, this man, at least we didn't get to see Mark Madden, but we have to see the King like this. So
do you know what? Jerry Lawler needed to be involved in an angle, right? A stipulation match where if he lost, he had to have a wank every night before he went on air. And then it completely changes his character. He's just given like really, really seasoned commentary on the matches. He's talking about the technical moves and all that. And then the matches where he doesn't have a wank, he's all titties, puppies.
You can see why this man was in many failed marriages, though. It's like, oh my god. Sorry.
There's a missed angle.
There's still time. He's still on WWE television. But yeah, so again, the Bush League nature of this pay-per-view, right? So instead of having a video package as the lads are taking stuff away, Triple H walks out and they're still removing the rails of clothes away. So you have the game playing and like a rail of clothes is just going by and you're like, what is this? How did you miss this? Because it just takes so much away from Triple H's entrance, And then when he steps in, there's just a big bar just in the way, and I'm just like,
I am
okay.
the game. Here's my rail of bras.
That's what it is. That's what it is. And you can just see off to the side as he walks in, like
I am the game.
Away.
I have a dark secret.
So yeah, I thought that was weird. I thought that was like a weird kind of like production oversight for a company that's so into its everything's so great. Also, there's one part in the video, and I didn't realize Triple H's Titantron was so dark because you weren't able to watch this on the internet at the time because YouTube wasn't a thing back in 2004. There's like so much blood in Triple H's video Titantron video. There's a bit where there's just blood everywhere, and you're like, wow, okay, they really are making him look like a killer, So yeah, there you go. It's something I never noticed before. Also, the bit from 2000 SummerSlam where he attacks Kurt Angle on the stretcher. Also something that I didn't realize was in that Titantron. So look, different times. I mean, now we can watch it, but
I really miss when wrestlers Titantrons were actual footage of their matches,
yeah,
their
me
big
too.
moments, rather than just their name spinning around.
Yeah, but it's a different time as well. Like, it's funny because you can go back and watch just the lame Titantrons now, but at this time you couldn't. And I mean, even HBK's one looks great, but when he came out, he was selling his knee that he was limping to the ring, and it was kind of disappointing. It was anticlimactic because I'm like, why did you put yourself forward if you're injured? It took away from the match.
As a Bret Hart fan, I have many things to say on Shawn Michaels and his various phony leg and knee injuries.
I was very disappointed with this match. I will be honest with you. I was very underwhelmed. I've seen these guys go out and have incredible matches, even randomly on a Raw.
But you know what? No, it's so weird you say that, because do you know what this felt like?
What?
Like, okay, so it felt like a WCW show.
It did, yeah.
It also felt like just an episode of Raw. These matches didn't have any huge like pay-per-view feel. In fact, if they're not going to go with Taboo Tuesday, because again, there is a kernel of a good idea in here as a pay-per-view, I think they should make it an episode of Raw. Just have an episode of Raw where people vote on their app for, and then you can do it and see what the response is like, and then see if you want to do it as a pay-per-view in the future. But I think it would make like for a fun, interesting, different from the run-of-the-mill episode of Raw.
I agree. Doing it as a pay-per-view is probably a bad idea, but doing it as an episode of Raw or SmackDown, be unreal.
Yeah, call it Random Raw or whatever. But I actually agree
Taboo
with
Monday, Cyber Monday, Cyber Monday. There you go. It's already a thing.
Yeah, Manic Monday. Just come up with some name for it. Cyber SmackDown. But I actually completely agree with you on this match.
It's just disappointing, isn't
I
it?
obviously know they're capable of better, but this is why it felt like an episode of Raw. I know they're capable of better. It felt like they were holding back.
Yeah, the whole time.
Because on Raw, what happens is you get these big matches, but they're not actually going full tilt. They're holding back because the big match is going to be at the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
This felt like they were holding back for whenever the big match is. So,
but this is the big match.
But this is the pay-per-view, yeah. So I got a distinct Raw vibe off this.
And Edge, basically, the finish of this comes where Edge spears HBK from a referee distraction, and
he does it. He does a Dolph Ziggler. It should have been me. It should have been me.
But yeah, very disappointed. HBK didn't really look great. Triple H obviously is amazing, but yeah, just very disappointing. The blood
think back to that period of think back to that period of wrestling, man. A Triple H versus Shawn Michaels match. That's huge.
Yeah,
that's
legitimately huge. Yeah,
that's a WrestleMania main event. Like,
but that's why the crowd. That's why the crowd voted for it. That's why the crowd voted for it, because they expected more, and it just didn't deliver.
But again, I think this is where they missed out, because this is clearly a B-level pay-per-view.
Oh, so I think it's D level.
Oh, D level.
This is like we have this idea. Like, here you go.
This is the velocity of pay-per-views.
Yeah, this is.
But this is where they missed out. Rather than having like an actual what should have been a big match, they should have had something really interesting here. They should have brought in. I know, like, they don't like this term or whatever, but they should have brought in either a really well-known indie guy, a legend, like a legend, some
Shawn Michaels
who could still go.
Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair, they're the two. And remember, Undertaker was on SmackDown.
Yeah,
and a lot of other stars on SmackDown as well.
But bring back. I mean, a legend who's not active anymore. They would do that in the next Taboo Tuesday and Cyber Sunday. They would do that. Yeah, they would do it. I'm actually tempted to. Should we do the next one?
Do you want to do the next one? Okay.
Okay.
We'll do the next one.
Yeah, but I'd love to see like especially if the voting is real. It's like, all right, tonight Triple H for the world title will either go up against Shawn Michaels or Doink.
That kind of happened. Yeah, well, not in the next one, but with Cyber Sunday, they really leaned into that kind of. They leaned into that very much.
That's good.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing that then, because I think with something like this, you have to just go ridiculous.
Yeah, and Cyber Sunday is when they would really kind of lean into that. So the next one is kind of more of the same. But look, to finish this out, we had okay, so I've never seen this outside of WrestleMania before, and I don't know if you copped what I copped, right? Full on replays of the entire show. That was weird. I've never seen that before,
outside of WrestleMania.
Yeah, why? Why did they do that?
Not even the Royal Rumble.
No. Was it just me that thought that was really bizarre?
Do you know what it was?
What?
This whole pay-per-view, even though it was less than 3 hours long, this whole pay-per-view was
Forgettable.
70% padding.
Yeah.
You had all the stuff between matches, like the interviews and the skits and all that. You had all the voting stuff. So every match had so as well as the internet voting, every match had like a cheer from let's see what the audience thinks. Oh, what do you think of option 1? Way! Option 2, way! Yeah, there was 7 matches, I think. 7 matches, and we know that at least 2 of the matches were less than 2 minutes long.
Mm.
This was an awful lot of padding. So this is back 2004. Is that pre-network?
Oh yeah, no, the network was years away. Years away.
Have been pissed if I'd paid for this.
Oh no, dude, you had to get this on box office.
I would have been pissed.
You had to get this on box office, yeah.
What was the WWE pay-per-view cost you back then?
Oh, I think it was about €20. Oh, yeah, €20, give or take, yeah.
Man, if I'd have paid,
and then it went up to €24. I remember, yeah.
Oh man, I'd have been absolutely ripping.
Yeah. Well, my parents bought it, but I don't. Yeah, I don't. I think I had to choose between this or the, because I was 16 maybe. So yeah, I think I had to choose between this or Survivor Series. So I didn't get Survivor Series.
Well, hold on now.
I got this. Yeah.
If you're 16, definitely. If any of our listeners are 16, this is a great pay-per-view.
Oh yeah, I mean,
if you're a dirty little 16-year-old perv, as we all were at 16, this is the paper. This is well worth €20.
Everyone was Jared the King Lawler.
Yeah, we were. Jared the King Lawler was channeling every pubescent boy on the planet.
But yeah, man, look, I thought it was weird to see a full recap. Again, I think it was just because of padding, because even still, it's not at the end of the show. It's in the middle of the show.
So bizarre. It came
in the middle of the show.
Came before the main event.
Yeah. And I think it was...
This whole show was... It's, when you really look into it, it's so bizarre, isn't it?
But you know what they could have done, right? I was gonna say something and wait, no, we've already seen who's backstage. Do you have 12 lads backstage dressed ready to compete? Book a match. If you have time over, book a match.
Yeah, it's so strange that there's so many people there, but yeah, trouble filling time.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And look, if you don't want to do a really ridiculous stipulation match with one of your top guys, then do it with one of these mid-card guys who's doing nothing.
Yeah, I mean, look, if that had been me, again, booking a show from 20 years ago, thanks, Martin, I would have been look, for one night only, we're going to bring back the hardcore title or the European title or the cyber title, right?
Oh, perfect.
And then there you go. And we're going to have a battle royale with all these guys. Or, sorry,
the People's Choice. People's Choice title, yeah. Something.
Or, yeah, something like that. And you're just right. Or even what title will we bring back? European hardcore or the People's Choice cyber title or whatever. And then there you go.
Do you know what? Do it like the Andre thing. Don't even make it a title. Just make it a trophy. It's something. Like a one-off.
Yeah, but I mean, there was things they could have done, but just having that in the middle is okay. So so everything up to this point has been completely pointless. So if you just start watching at 2 hours 30, you're good. You've seen the entire show. It's so weird. So look, the main event, and also the fact that the world title wasn't the main event was also very bizarre, I thought.
Yeah, and again, I tried to find out why. I tried to find out if there was a timing issue or what. But
do you think Triple H just wanted to go home?
I mean, probably. This whole thing reeks of let's just get it done with.
Yeah. Because I mean, that's the only thing I can think about. Is just oh yeah, look.
Because genuinely, look, I know none of us have much free time these days, but man, go back and watch this Tuesday in Texas.
Yeah.
It feels like a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
This does not feel like a pay-per-view.
Well, look, on that point,
this feels like a house show.
Oh, that's it. That's exactly. Oh my God, that's what it feels like.
Yeah,
That's what it feels like. Yeah, it feels like a house show.
This is so bizarre. This is one of the most bizarre pay-per-views
You've actually hit the nail on the head. That's what the feeling is.
Yeah.
A house show,
That's why it feels like Impact. That's why it feels like WCW.
Yeah. Like, it feels like WCW trying, which is really pathetic, but
which is nearly even worse. Yeah.
It's nearly worse. It's like, oh yeah, that's exactly what it feels like. Even the way Coachman talks to the crowd, it's like that's a house show thing.
It's
That's
like the
what happens
wrestlers.
at house shows.
It's like the wrestlers are either out there having fun because they know none of this is canon and none of it matters,
Yeah.
or they just want to get their spot over with and go home.
Yeah, which is
a house show.
Yeah, which is a house show. Yeah. So look, with the main event, Randy Orton and Ric Flair, right? So what would you? Okay, I understand why a steel cage match was picked because steel cages are fun, right? But what would have you like? I wouldn't have picked a submission match. What have you would have went for? Would you went for the falls count anywhere?
I mean, so Ric Flair is 55 at the time.
Yeah.
You probably have to. I mean, now obviously the guy was going until last year, or going, air quotes. I mean, you probably have to consider what his limitations are. I don't really like a falls count anywhere. There's going to be an expectation that you're going to, at the very least, brawl through the crowd.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think cage match was probably the safest option.
Do you think everybody had that idea as well?
And also, it allows them to. It's probably the safest option, but it allows them to sell the pay-per-view as having a big deal on it. A cage match is still, like it's still in that era where a cage match is still a kind of a big deal. Yeah, I don't know what the good options were here, but I'll tell you what, I thought they did well. They kept it short. They kept it intense. They got the blood, whether they were blading or using blood packs, whatever it was. Look, nobody's ever going to go back and watch this again, but I thought this was fine for what it was. What I really liked. So we were talking earlier about how Benoit is amazing at selling winning a title. Flair is amazing at selling being senile.
Oh yeah.
At the end of this match, where he can't stand and he's looking around him, he's looking like he doesn't know where he is, and he's looking at Randy Orton like, "Who are you? Are you here to pick me up for the bus?"
I have to say, I was expecting Randy Orton to RKO. At the end of this match, like the actual finish was great. The RKO out of nowhere, like it is. And I mean, here's the thing: if you're playing WWE 2K, any of the 2Ks from like 19 all the way up, always pick the RKO as your finish in career mode because it's the best finisher because you can hit it from anywhere and it will always end the match. And
hit it from out of nowhere.
Yeah, and that's kind of what
match
happened
ended here. 2 days ago when you're at home having a shower and then bang, RKO out of nowhere.
That's it.
You lose.
But
retrospective RKO.
But the ending was quite good, and then as you said, yeah, he really sold the fact that he was kind of out of it, and I was expecting Orton to hit him again, but it just kind of ended in this weird thing where it's like they're face to face. It's like he's gonna kiss him. Kind of was. Then he pulled away. He's going to hit him.
It's so
no, they're just standing there. This is so weird.
It was so weirdly intense, but it was like in the space of about 12 seconds, it was like 3 really different kinds of intense.
Yes.
So
yes, exactly.
So for the first 4 seconds, it was like really intense. Like, oh my god, is he about to RKO him? And for the next 4 seconds of intense, it was like, oh my god, is he about to call him an ambulance? For the next 4 seconds, it was like, oh my god, is he going to drop the hand?
Honestly, that's what it felt like. It was like it went from being right, he's going to hit him, he's going to make out with him, and they were standing there in a weird way. And it's like
he's gonna have him committed. Like
it was like, and I think the storyline was he felt sorry for him, but I'm also like, okay, I need more context than this, and that's there was no. What probably happened when this went off the air was, someone walked out and they did something, and everyone went home happy. Because we got a house show finish, and I love the way you've identified that. Because I mean, that's the Rosetta Stone here. We got a house show finish that didn't have a house show finish. There's supposed to be something that comes after it that makes this make sense, and it just didn't happen. So
do you know what I would be interested? So this is a Raw pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I would be interested to see that week's episode of Raw to see if they even reference this. Because I have a notion that they half-arsed this idea.
Yeah.
They got a small audience.
Yeah.
They got a dud of a buy rate. I'd say they completely did like a 1984 with this on the next episode of Raw, and they just scrub it from history. They don't even mention it. Here's
one for you. Right, so the steel cage match was 10 out of 10 stars.
From whom?
Well, it was from Slam Sports.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what that seems to be what Wikipedia's going
Slam
with.
Sports, an affiliate company of Ric Flair.
The lingerie pillow fight was rated 0 out of 10 stars, which I think is unfair. I mean, everyone went home.
Well, do you know what? I genuinely would have given them 1 star. One, for the fact that what's her name, Chrissy Hemme, she really carried that whole thing against a woman who looked like she had no idea why she was even there. Yeah. And 2, the pair of them wrestled in inverted commas, but the pair of them wrestled in heels.
That's also true, yeah. Which is, I mean, fair play to them.
Exactly. And look, heels on their own are bad enough. Trying to
they didn't fall down. Again. They didn't fall down at all, really.
Heels is tough enough. And then wearing heels, I would imagine, in a wrestling ring with the padding and all that, I would say is even tougher. So I'd give them 1 star.
So I do have the aftermath here, right? So Evolution were put in charge of Raw after Bischoff took the night off. Triple H granted Ric Flair the match of his choice, and he wanted a rematch with Randy Orton. So Orton.
So they did reference it.
Yeah, Orton accepted the challenge, and the winner would get the face Triple H for a World Championship at Survivor Series. Orton did not receive the opportunity as he lost to Flair, and So and there was also a follow-up then with the whole Snitsky thing, and then a follow-up with Benjamin and Jericho, which would set up a feud with Christian and Benjamin.
Oh,
so, yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
And then Lita would return to the women's division after this, with a feud with Lita. With a feud with Trish, because Trish called Lita chubby. Yeah. So there we go. Because she was pregnant beforehand. So that's the rationale apparently.
She's not.
I know.
The whole story was she lost the baby.
I know, but that's what Wikipedia says. So
I'll tell you, if we were ever to do a room 101 of wressling, I think the first thing I'd put in there would be miscarriage angles. They never get the kind of melodrama they want. They just always make me really uncomfortable.
Everyone is just saddened by it. It's just everyone feels bad at the end of it. It's like with the wedding. It's like a wrestling wedding. Someone's going through that table and the cake is going to get smashed.
Someone's going through that cake.
Yeah, it's just what's going to happen, but that's fine.
Either someone's going to get slammed into it or somebody's going to pop out of it. But the one thing that is not going to happen that cake is it's going to be sliced and eaten.
And enjoyed by everybody at the reception. That's not happening.
Enjoyed by the guests. And one piece of it frozen and kept by the couple for 20 years.
Exactly.
That is the one thing that is not happening.
No, everything else. But that's not happening. So yeah, I mean, look, I think maybe next week, Martin, do you want to do the next angle? The next Taboo Tuesday, rather? Before we go back to our new arc?
I'm up for a wee mini arc of the next Taboo Tuesday and then Sabre Sunday. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think that's cool. Because, I mean, we've been threatening for these for a while. We're kind of in that post-WrestleMania period where we don't really know what's going on. So I
We
think
don't know
that's
what's going on. WWE certainly doesn't know what's going on.
No,
So
they have no idea what's going on. And before we kind of settle
Cody
down,
Rhodes doesn't know what's going on.
all I know is, Cody, you're listening for some reason. One, you deserve it, and two, be Stardust again. And we'll be even.
I sent Dara a picture from Dynamite. This week's episode of Dynamite was amazing, by the way. It was a genuinely, like, I think Tony Khan looked at the Raw after Mania and said, I'll show you how to do a Raw after Mania. But I sent Dara a picture of it because somebody in the audience who was just like perfectly opposite the hard cam just had this big sign in the crowd that just said LMAO Cody.
Look, all I know is at the end of the day, you know, you don't mess with Triple H and then go work for him. Don't know how you thought that was going to work out, but
do you know, I was so convinced that Cody had in his contract that he wins the title at Mania.
he probably did, but this sale might have actually changed everything. I mean, you know, that's the one. Like, I would have agreed with you, but I think the sale has probably changed the entire dynamic of WWE's legal environment completely. So
Cody strikes me as if he has a bit of the Bret Hart about him, where actually money is kind of secondary to his legacy, where he would rather take less money and have great matches and win the title. And I was convinced that part of him leaving AEW was that he'd win in the main event of WrestleMania.
But again, it doesn't really mean anything if the company doesn't exist anymore. I mean, who's he going to sue? Titan Sports don't exist anymore. You know, it's like, who are you going to sue?
And given that Endeavor own UFC, I'd say they have some very vicious lawyers on call, on retainer.
Yes. So yeah, I think you could have been right. And as soon as that deal came in, they're like, okay, look, you play ball or you don't, you know. But look, we'll have to keep an eye on it. I think Taboo Tuesday and Cyber Sunday are going to be our next mini arc, the interactive shows, and then we might jump back somewhere else. I'm thinking I kind of got enamored with Lions Den matches again, so I have a good pay-per-view arc that we might do. Fully Loaded 1998 might be the next one.
Nice.
I'm not going to. I don't even want you to Google that, Martin. I'm
not going to do anything. I'm going to wait for you to send me the date, and I'm going to put it into the network as long as the network still exists.
I tell you better not take the network away. That doesn't make the show a lot more difficult. But
Martin, what did you think of the episode? I thought it was great on the 240p video that I watched it on Daily Motion.
But with that being said, Martin, is there anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
Yeah, WWE is not the only interactive company out there. If you want to be part of our show, get on Patreon and throw us a couple of euros and we'll take your votes and we'll listen to your half-baked opinions. Absolutely.
And you can do that over on thewrestlingrewind.com. It will present you a link tree with all the links to contact us. If there's any show you want us to cover as well, we'll totally do it once we can find it. And let us know what you thought. Who would you have voted? What would you have picked in Taboo Tuesday or Cyber Sunday? And we'll be back here next week on the Wrestling Rewind and on the radio, because this one sure as hell wasn't going on the radio. See you there, guys.
Keep on that.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.